Separated by cosmic cabinets, Brandon, Paul, and Logan are broadcasting the Breakdown Podcast live using their telepathic powers. My name is Brandon Miracle, broadcasting live from the Break Room Arcade. If you look south of me in the video version, you'll see the wonderful face of Paul Anderson, broadcasting live from the Break Room Clubhouse. If you look to the right of me in the video version, you'll see the wonderful face of Logan Welliver, broadcasting live from the Break Room bedroom. Well, he's trying to broadcast. Anyway.
I said I try to be beautiful.
This is the 20th. Don't try, succeed. This is the 20th episode of the Breakdown Podcast, recorded live on July 2nd, 2018. This is the first episode of the Breakdown Podcast after it got severed in half with the Nintendo side of the podcast, which is now its own podcast.
To murder that part?
Yeah, so Mystery Wada asked us to make Super Smash Brothers, and we decided that we wanted to make it for both Wii U and 3DS. So just picture the logo splitting in two, and this is the Breakdown podcast now. So if you want our Nintendo coverage and our Nintendo content, you can find the Nintendo Stuff podcast broadcasting live on Friday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, the previous time and place for the Breakdown podcast. The Breakdown podcast now broadcasts live on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time.
Which is right now.
If you want to hear us talk about all the latest Nintendo news and Nintendo coverage and the Super Smash Bros. Blog, you'll find that Nintendo podcast. In this podcast, we're going to talk about our movies, TV, anime, shows, video games, all that stuff that we've been doing over the last week. You got a little bit extra in this episode because the Breakdown obviously got pushed back a couple days. So
it's been like, what? It's like almost 2-3 weeks since we've done like a regular, like full-length breakdown.
Well, episode 19 was like 2.5 hours long of the breakdown. Because
that was the post E3 show, though, right? Or no, that was episode 18. Never mind. We did have 19, which was 2 weeks in one.
Yeah.
We just keep saving it.
We had a lot to make up for. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you are a patron, you got some stuff to do. So go to our Patreon. If you're not a patron, you should join, because you get some cool privileges on the Breakdown podcast. For $5 a month, you actually can suggest a topic for our monthly patron episode of the Breakdown podcast. If you do as little as $1 a month, you can even ask us questions that we'll answer live on the show.
It also helps us out a ton.
Yeah, it also helps us out if you're a patron and you actually do that stuff. So please, there's a couple of you out there. We need your help.
Also, to our patrons out there, if you haven't yet, link your Discord with your Patreon account. That way you can access all of our exclusive Discord areas.
Yeah, we know there's at least one of you that hasn't done that yet.
Also, we have a Discord, and you should jump on that.
Links to that stuff in the description. Everything you need to find.
It's right underneath me.
Yeah, right underneath Paul. So, with that, guys, why don't we jump right into the show? So,
that's an idea.
In a typical episode of the Breakdown podcast, as in last week and before, we wouldn't have gotten to this part until like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half into the show. So we would have to rush through everything that we had left. Now we have all the time in the world to talk about all the stuff we've been up to.
Yeah, if you go back like 20 episodes, that's what it started as, and then we began to talk more news. I added more discussions, and this is...
And then our audience built off the part that wasn't the show, and we were like, what do we do? Now we have 2 shows. Here we are.
I think the most amazing part about that, too, is that you used to go on for like 2.5, almost 3 hours just talking about what we did over a week. And then we added in a topic, and it somehow got shorter.
Well, we've been refining our craft.
Sure.
So before we get started, what have you guys been up to during the week? We can take a few minutes to kind of chill out, catch up.
The week just started?
Well, there was last week.
Yeah, I was about to say Monday to Monday, right?
Yeah.
That's the breakdown week. It's Monday to Monday. Well, I caught up on some shows. I binged a season here or there. Some shows finished up. Me personally, I've been bumming. I've been not working a ton because hours are scarce. So I gotta maybe make some applications to some new jobs. Maybe move some different places. Who knows?
Some videos.
That too, right? I recently...
We can keep that off the show.
I got this. I was telling the gents, telling you guys before the show, that I finally got this sucker set up with my DAW, my DAW, digital audio workstation.
For those of you that don't know what DAW means.
Yeah, DAW. That's like I kind of explained it. I was like, nobody's gonna get what that means. But hopefully this will assist me in creating music for myself, creating music for this podcast and this channel overall. It's 49 keys. So it's giving me a lot more freedom than I had with my smaller keyboards. And so I'm excited about that. I even got like some of the other like inputs to interface, like the pitch wheel and the modulation wheel. So this is my toy, right? This was my like, oh, Logan got a new toy. He gets to sit down and mess around with it. And so I have full faith that we'll get some tasty jams out of this one.
I'm down for some tasty jams. Logan, I do have to note something. I've made an observation about you today, and it means one of two things. One, you like to rewear shirts within days of wearing them, or two,
yes,
you do your laundry a lot.
Well,
you can wear it front to back,
I'll
inside
address
out,
both
front
of
to
those,
back
right?
again.
I'll address going backwards, right? So one, do I do my laundry a lot? And the answer to that is no. I do not do my laundry a lot. And so you were right. You were right, because I heard that, right? What you aren't right about is that I wore this the other day. The truth is, I haven't stopped wearing it since the other day.
Oh no!
I was hoping you were about to say that you have like 30 of that shirt.
If that tells you anything about the state of my existence, whatever you're thinking is probably right. Assume the worst about my life.
Well, man,
well, the thing is, Logan,
I assume that you had like 2 or 3 of that shirt.
It's okay, because the shirt you're wearing is fantastic.
Oh, it's a great shirt. So if anybody doesn't know,
I would wear that shirt
Ocarina of Time.
specifically 4 days in a row.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes this happens, right? Other times, like I have a lot of clothes though, so I'll clean my clothes and I'll have a lot of clean clothes for very long time. But even when I do have clean clothes, I do this kind of stuff all the time, right? As I just continue wearing the same thing that I was wearing yesterday because it's a really good shirt. And then like I recently, lost a not insignificant amount of weight just by eating a little bit better, which I haven't been doing well in the last few weeks, but that's okay. Still lost that weight, and like this shirt was a little tight on me, and now it just fits really comfortable, right? So it was an opportunity to wear a shirt that I haven't worn in a while, and you get attached to it.
That's a good world to live in, with a snuggly shirt, keeping off the pounds. And you know what? As far as bumming is concerned, everyone needs some time to bum out, Like, if you've been bumming for like 5 or 6 days in a row, who cares? You take that time, you live your life, you look back on it, maybe you could have been more productive, whatever. You can be more productive in the days going forward. So,
well, you definitely weren't productive in terms of this podcast because your list is pretty filled out.
Yeah, this is like one of the meatiest Logan lists I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's because I did a lot of the things I did do were very self-serving, right? So there was a few intentional days in there where I was like, I'm not gonna try and do anything important. I'm just gonna do the things that I feel like doing, and then you get online with some various friends and you're playing different games, and so I gotta, if you look at my games list there, I don't give anything away, but there are a lot of 2s.
I was gonna say that earlier. There's a lot of numbers in your your list there.
I mean, that being said, there's a lot of 2s in all of ours, but I have more.
You have the sum of your numbers are larger than the rest of us.
You have a 2 for every item on the list. You guys just had to like stop.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Oh, I didn't know what you meant by that.
I can see the calculation in your eyes.
Well, we'll get to that. Well, I'd say I don't know. I think
Hey James.
I think in any week you got to do some reflection.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe okay. So people rate video games, so maybe we should rate our weeks. Give reviews of our weeks.
So what's your review for your week?
This week had its ups, had its downs. some really, really great ups and some really nothing too low, right? So it was either really mediocre or pretty exciting. So I guess that in retrospect, it was a pretty decent week, but it still wasn't too revolutionary. I'm gonna say, like, if I give it a number score, like a 6, like a solid 6, right?
James says yesterday was dope, Logan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we played some Left 4 Dead 2.
There you go. Yeah, I saw you playing that. And I
Yeah,
was like,
Left 4
is he
Dead
playing
2,
alone?
and then we played through like the first 2 sets of levels in the Portal 2 co-op.
There you go.
So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well.
And Paul, sorry. Yeah. Paul,
no,
how was your week?
Okay. Yeah, Paul.
Well, if I had to rate
Paul.
it would be a 128 gigabyte micro SD card out of a Captain Falcon amiibo.
There you go.
Made some big boy purchases.
What all were you up to this week or last week?
Well, my boss was largely out of the office, which means that I got to be productive on break room arcade things.
Prime goof off mode.
Yeah. So I made mugs and a dope t-shirt. Crap. I feel like there was other stuff that I did too. Like I got some of the background or back end stuff ready for Nintendo stuff. I designed some other stuff. It was largely just goofing off, but I also watched a lot of shows and got caught up on a lot of things. And oh yeah, I made a video. that was the big thing that I did at work. I mean, I did it at home.
I started to make a video, which is better than it has been recently. So hopefully I'll start more things.
There you go.
People need to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, I need to see my beautiful face too.
I need to see your beautiful face.
I have spent the last few days just kind of vegging out, watching anime, and playing a lot of video games. A lot more video games than I've played in a long time. And it felt good just to kind of, catch up on the backlog. Spent quite a few hours in a particular game I'll be talking about later. And it sunk its teeth right back into me. I was actually upset at myself that I even stopped.
Well, I was playing a game, and I checked my friends list, saw you were playing it. I quit playing. I came back like hours later, saw you were still playing.
That is all I did that entire day. It was madness, and I loved every minute of it. Anyway, so yeah, I caught up on a lot of games, and that's really all I've been up to outside of, working every day.
If you had to rate it?
If I had to rate it, I'd give it 1 Diet Orange Crush out of 0 Diet Orange Crushes.
Out of 0 Diet Orange Crushes.
That's pretty good.
I think that's indefinite.
You can't divide by 0.
Yeah, so you can make
that's
it.
How
you can make what you want of it, because I have a Nintendo Switch dock.
Mine's in the other room. Dang it.
So with that, we'll get into the actual breakdown segment of the Breakdown podcast, which is the main segment now. Woo! We're here.
We made it to the segment.
We did
This is my favorite segment.
The show. We made it to the show. So starting with movies and TV for this week, I'll kind of kick us off. And Paul, I know you watched this too. Tonya.
Yep.
Caught it on Hulu. If you've wanted to see it, it's on Hulu right now, available to subscribers. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Margot Robbie plays the lead. It's about a scandalous incident in the Olympic figure skating world. I'll let you kind of...
Figure skating world.
We'll let you watch it to find out what exactly.
Yeah. But if you know, you know, because it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie does a fantastic job in this, I thought.
They actually did a good job. Like, even when they switched to her, it took a long time to start actually recognizing her. Like, they did a good job. Like, yeah. Like, they did a good job of making her look like someone else. Yeah. And so it was less like, oh, hey, that's Margot Robbie, It was, oh, hey, this is that figure skater.
It's so interesting to see a subject matter and a person like this come back into the public consciousness, especially in the way that it has, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's this movie, I, Tonya. There was a song just recently in the past few months from Sufjan Stevens called I think it might have just been called Tonya.
I think you said it was just Tonya.
Yeah. But then in addition to that, like a week ago on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon? Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Barack Hampton performed a song called Tonya, and they name dropped the movie I, Tonya in the song. And so I think they're using it, you know, to express some grievance that they have, and comparing themselves to Tonya and getting caught up in something scandal.
Is it reference to how the media handles these kinds of things?
I think it's something more personal in this song. They just recently had a fallout with a member over some allegations, and so they're kind of heated about that still, and so it came out in the song.
Gotcha. Well, I, Tonya, it focuses mostly on trying to reach the truth of the situation, whether or not you choose to believe it. But that's also a big thematic point for the movie, is how the media handle these kinds of situations, how much truth is actually in there, and to what extent the media is using them for ratings. That comes into big play towards the last act of the movie. But I feel like that's a truth that we can certainly attest to this day and age, because it's only gotten worse as social media has gotten bigger. You just see a few seconds of a situation and you wrap your mind around that, and you decide what you think about that situation in that moment without any context.
Well, I feel like it's a lot of unreliable narrator, because you don't know exactly who's telling the truth or what exactly is the truth. You're getting a lot of different perspectives, and you have to take these people at their
and they make that
between what they're saying.
They make that clear in a couple cases too, where you look at like a direct back and forth between Tonya and her husband, and one says one thing, the other says the other, and you see it both ways, and you're like, I don't know which one's real, but they're telling me both. And then they go on with the story without ever really resolving the truth behind that. But it still plays a part in the story throughout the movie. So I think they're trying to push you in one direction, with also leaving the possibility that this may not even be true. We don't know.
Right. Well, you kind of have to take a stance to serve the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're going nowhere, then, I mean, it's not an interesting film. So, and this reminds me, you talking about like the whole, like, you know, we don't know who to believe. We don't know what to believe. Something like a piece of work that deals with that. I watched something earlier that kind of echoes that same kind of like thing. Something awful happened, and everybody's looking for somebody to blame. And a lot of the truth gets lost in that, because everybody's so heated, and they're not thinking clearly about a situation. And it's verbal chaos, you know, people just throwing out like conspiracies and things.
And then you have the bandwagoners too, who will see a situation developing, decide on something or how they feel without even knowing anything, even like the baseline information the media will give you, not even knowing that.
Right.
Yeah, so I think this movie has some pretty interesting perspectives as far as that goes. I love the way it handles the deliverance of information. Sometimes you'll cut to a scene and the fourth wall is just completely broken. Like Margot Robbie will look into the camera and then give you a personal comment about how she feels about the situation before proceeding with the action again. I love those moments. They add a little bit of color to the movie, which I think is awesome, and they definitely keep you engaged.
Well, just a very, like, it had an interesting vibe, being, like, such a serious situation. And they kind of took, I don't know, almost like a very light approach to it. Mm-hmm. Where, like, they were dealing with a lot of really heavy things, you know, abuse. And it was kind of presented in a way that, like, wasn't as, I don't know, depressing.
Yeah, it's not quite sugar-coated. You're definitely getting the truth that they want you to see, but they're not trying to make you feel bad about it at the same time. So an interesting approach as far as that goes. I do want to take a moment to mention there's a specific character, I think his name was Sean, in like the last half of the movie. That
yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah, and that you get a particular idea about Sean. He's kind of eccentric, kind of dumb. You hear some of the things he says
eccentric.
You see some of the things he says in the movie, but then you get his true to life real interview segment played during the credits of the film, and some of the things that they put in the movie were word for word things he said, and it was hysterical.
Those like interviews at the end were like, I think, part of my favorite portion of it, because you realize just how like pretty close they actually got the characters to their counterparts.
It was an incredibly accurate depiction based on the very little we get to see of the real people, and for that I really loved it, especially her mother and the bird.
Oh, the bird.
She hasn't, you know, she's been married, what, I think she said 5 times, and right now her current companionship in life is this pet bird that she has that keeps, like, nibbling at her neck and ear during her interview. Then they show her real interview from back when this happened, and there's the bird nibbling at her neck. It was all true. Absolutely love it.
That's so strange.
Yeah, so I'm glad I finally sat down and gave this movie a watch. I'd highly recommend it to any movie buff or anyone who's interested in figure skating or that particular situation. Pretty cool stuff. My wife really enjoyed it, but she's also really into figure skating, so it was a good movie for both of us to see at the same time. Logan, I would highly recommend you sit down and watch that.
I don't know. I haven't watched it already. And chances are, with how many streaming services I have available to me at any given point, like it's probably there somewhere, right?
Hulu.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yep. That's actually why I started watching, because it opened up Hulu, and it was, I think it was even on like the first like page, so it was the first thing I saw. I'm like, oh yeah, Brandon said I should watch that, and so I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to catch it in theaters with my movie pass, but I just never found an opportunity. So I was glad to finally see it. One movie I did use my movie pass on over the last couple days, I saw Won't You Be My Neighbor, which is the documentary about Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And it was fantastic, actually. I'm a big fan of Fred Rogers. I used to watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood back before I was even in preschool. My mom, I think her work schedule was a little weird, so she would kind of take naps during the day. And my sister was in preschool at the time, or it may have even been kindergarten. I don't remember for sure. But the deal was, I would be sitting there watching public television until Mr. Rogers came on. And after Mr. Rogers' program was over, I'd wake her up, and we'd go pick up my sister from school. So that was several years of my life. And then, of course, I watched Mr. Rogers even beyond that. I have a ton of respect for the man. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. There really isn't anything bad to say about Fred Rogers. They tackle some subjects that are even, you know, well, I shouldn't say even, but are definitely prevalent today, such as the homophobia. And you get a little bit of insight onto Fred's stance on that. And I thought the approach they took was really interesting. There's a character on the show that was closet while he was on the program. And you learn the circumstances of how his coworkers found out he was gay and kind of how that shaped his relationship with Fred. And just hearing how Fred handled that situation is really incredible. It shows you just how much character he had, because he was a devout Christian. And obviously the Christian views on that kind of thing are much different than, you know, the public in today's day. So it was really interesting to see that and kind of what he stood for. Obviously they took a moment to mention the incredible moment where he saved public television. He's singing some words, or not even singing, just saying the words to one of his songs to the judge, and the judge, right after he was done, he's like, I guess you just won your $20 million. You just saved public television. Right. So it was really incredible to see. I learned a lot of things about Fred that I didn't know. So if you are a fan of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or if you even have any interest in Fred Rogers as a person at all, I'd highly recommend you check this out.
And I don't know why you wouldn't, because one, he's an interesting dude, and two, he's one of the most inspirational dudes. I mean, there's a reason why he, like, when they talk about Fred Rogers, half of them also are talking about like Bob Ross. Yeah.
Both public television.
Yeah, and both like super like uplifting individuals who are like, oh, you can do it, you can, and then they meant it too. Like they were just genuine people. One of the great things.
One of the things that stood out to me, that there was a section where they were kind of talking about the show's format and how Fred specifically treasured moments of silence. You know, things that were on TV for kids at the time were very loud, colorful, and just, you know, violence and screaming and clowns and all that kind of stuff. But Fred would treasure the moments where he was just on screen, tying his shoe, feeding the fish, admiring a picture, and it would just be silent for just a few seconds, you know, maybe even 5 to 10 seconds. And, you know, you live for those moments, and it gives the child an opportunity to kind of ingest what they're seeing and be a part of it. And I thought it was some really interesting perspective on just his entire perspective on children's education and television.
Right.
So definitely check it out. I would love to see it again. I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out.
You actually kind of broke my heart when you said you saw it. For whatever reason, I thought it was out already. And so I jumped on the streaming service. Like, where did you watch that at?
Oh, no, I saw it in theaters.
Oh, yeah, it was in theaters.
Yeah, I looked up showtimes after you told me you saw it, and like the closest one to me is like 40 miles away.
I feel lucky I got to see it at all. I didn't think it was even going to come to Rockford, and even then, it only came to one of our 2 theaters.
I'm in an interesting camp with that because I'm one of those people that didn't grow up with him, and him and Bob Ross are 2 people that like I didn't really know anything about, but the people around me did, and so I was able to learn more about them through all the people around me that had the nostalgia for them, and I was able to learn certain things, grow some appreciation. And that's why I want to go see it, not because I grew up watching him, but because I just learned to respect him through the admiration of people around me.
Then this is a perfect movie for you then, because this gives you all the perspective and the insight on his life. I legitimately, like, for maybe like 2/3 of that movie, I legitimately like had a smile on my face. It was, I felt very good watching that.
How many times did you cry?
A few actually. A lot of that came from just, you know, emotions I had from watching the show as a child, and just how much of an impact he's had on my life. Because after I left the theater, I realized how many, you know, some of my mannerisms and some of the ways I communicate with people and things like that, just how much of it came from that show because I watched it at such a young age. So absolutely loved it. Gonna pick it up when it comes out. And that's everything I watched this week. That wasn't anime.
That wasn't anime.
Killing it.
All right, Paul, we'll throw it into your corner.
All right. So I think it was 2 Fridays ago I started talking about Game of Thrones Season 7. I finished it the next day. It might have been the best season of Game of Thrones since the first season.
That's an incredible accomplishment for a show that's been on for so long.
Yeah, it had a lot of really, really great moments. And it was, once I started, it was really stop. Like, I was gonna watch like maybe a couple episodes each day, and I just couldn't stop myself from watching all of it. Like, the thing that like hurt the most when I got done with it is that there wasn't more. Like, we're so close to the end, and so many of these different plot lines that you watch slowly come together are everybody's united in the same place, doing the same thing. And I just want to see the conclusion.
2019, man.
It's going to be a long wait. It's going to be a long winter.
I've heard a couple characters have mentioned they've wrapped up their final scenes.
Yep.
Which is inadvertent.
2019 already.
It's weird. Like, that's inadvertently like a spoiler for someone who hasn't finished it yet, because this show is often about people, you know, well, not about them, but a lot of people die. So now I know at least who's alive.
Well, I wouldn't assume that, just because like it's a very like graphic intensive show, so I'm gonna guess they need a lot of time to add in all the CGI and whatnot. Especially where they're at now, it's going to require a lot of CGI.
Okay.
Like, just knowing what's, like, the last thing that I saw, like, I'd believe that they'd take a year just on the CGI for it.
Yeah, thankfully they have the budget and the time for that, right?
Yeah. It's gonna be a great finale, I hope, anyway. But at least, like, I got through 5 and 6, and I was rewarded with season 7. Everything, like, 1 through 4 is really great to pretty good. Then there's 5 and 6.
Are they the?
And then there's really great 7.
Are they the Mega Man's 5 through 8?
I think so.
Okay.
Like, they're important to, like, you see everything kind of come together for 7, and then 7 does the last push to bring everything together, and that's why it's able. It moved a lot of ground where 5 and 6 were, like, stuck in the same places for a very long time and moving very slowly.
Was it like future setup, or was it just kind of?
Yeah, it was all setting up for season 7. And
Okay,
so season 7, like, they picked it all up and they ran with it.
So
finally.
5 and 6 aren't necessarily seasons that can stand on their own.
No.
Or shouldn't be considered that way.
No.
Okay.
At least according to Paul.
Yeah, they do a lot of, like, world building. That's all I can really say. They bring certain people together, and then, you know, it just keeps kind of growing.
I think it's important to note that, you know, season 7 probably wouldn't have been as good for you, like, if you hadn't had that time in 5 and 6.
Definitely.
That's how I feel about Clannad.
You should go back and you should watch through season 7. I highly recommend it. Don't watch it with your parents. If you
Or
don't
do.
watch if you're 8, unless you're 18 and older.
Unless your parents are 18 years or older.
Don't watch it unless your parents are 18 years and older. It's also cool.
Oh
If
boy.
your parents are cool, then go for it.
All right, what else do we got?
So I sat down and I also watched all of season 2 for 13 Reasons Why.
All of it?
Oh man, all of it.
Oh.
Wow. I didn't even know you were watching it.
Wow. He didn't watch season 1, he just watched season 2.
I didn't watch the first one.
I said I watched all of season 2, okay? So
He watched 26 Reasons Why.
We made that joke like a month and a half ago.
And I'm bringing it back. It's a bit.
full circle, full circle.
So what did you think, Paul?
Going into it, I wasn't sure how they could top season 1 of that, and how they could keep working in this world and keep making it interesting. And I was very wrong with that.
It's a pleasant surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, they did a good job of, like, expanding the bit of the story we got, seeing those other perspectives, and seeing a lot more of the consequences of Hannah's actions in the lives of the people around her. And throughout the season, they do a good job of kind of building towards more while also resolving things. And
Yeah.
so, like, I noticed that with, like, season 1 and season 2, where you end both seasons and okay. It's not as, like, cliffhangery. This one was a little more so than the first one, but
Yeah, you very much leave in a situation unlike the first one.
and I hate like the build up to that situation too, because I like that character a whole lot.
That was very stressful for me to watch.
I really wanted to see, like, good things for him, and it broke my heart that everything just fell apart.
Yeah, they're really trying to drive home the sad realities that some people go through.
There's a
And
bug.
I'll have to mention again, like, Stranger Things. 13 Reasons Why is not something you should watch if you're not mentally prepared for it, because it can be rough.
They did a good job with
So
season
what you're
2
saying
putting
is,
their,
if you feel like you need a trigger warning, you probably shouldn't watch the show.
Yeah, though they have gone back and put the trigger warnings in season 1 and again in season 2.
I was gonna
Oh,
say
really?
they did a lot of good job, like, putting in a warning ahead of time, but also, like, have that link to resources if you need help.
And they start
And
every
so
episode
seriously,
there with like that.
If you need help, if you're struggling with things like that, seek it out,
Right.
please.
You know, a lot of the
Which is
criticisms.
good. I think I think that's probably the most appropriate response that Netflix could have had to like any sort of controversy surrounding the subject, because I think it's something that needs to be explored, and whether you agree with how they handled it or not, I don't think that means it's off limits, even in the way that it was expressed. And so
it reminds me of the underground film movements. Those movements, do things in film that at the time were considered blasphemous or ridiculous, or they didn't make sense, and now they're main features of films today. And to me, this is just that cycle repeating itself. Maybe to more of an extreme than we've seen in the past, and maybe really should be dialed back. But without this, we don't move the medium forward.
Yeah,
well, this is also... Go ahead.
I think with any medium, there just needs to be some sort of balance, right? So you need to be pushing the... There needs to be people pushing the envelope. But at the same time, I mean, you see this in politics, right? There's the progressives versus the conservatives, and that's how I view everybody now, right? You're either with your views, you're looking to move somewhere, or you're conservative and saying, no, here's good, right? And there's value in both. There's value in saying, let's push forward, because as more things are allowed to be talked about, and that aren't, either like illegal or taboo, then we can have discussions about them, and we can put them in their context where they need to be, whether they're good things or bad things. They need to be put in their proper context, and the only way we can do that is if we have discussions about them. But the conservative movement, and that's where the discussion happens, right? The conservatives are like, whoa, wait a minute. Before you do this, before we decide, let's have a discussion about this and make sure we're not going off the deep end. Because a lot of progressives will put like reckless ideas out there, right? And we don't want reckless ideas. We want good ideas that work. And so that applies to politics and society, and that also applies to making art, making movies.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, what were some standouts for you this season, Paul?
Tyler as a whole.
Just Tyler's character arc?
Yeah, like that. That was probably the most interesting part of the season to me. But there's also, dang it, there's just so much to it. Like, it's a very full season. You move around. You see a lot of characters.
I like the evolution of Clay's grief, because it persists. Like, just because there was resolution in season 1 doesn't mean that Clay is going to stop having particular feelings.
It's not just done there. It's something that's going to persist.
Yeah, and they make it very clear, like, even towards the end of the season, that it will always persist. This is not something that just ends. So I thought that was a really, really well done interpretation of grief. And Clay's relationship... I was about to say that Clay's relationship with a particular character, Justin, which just made me so happy over the season. I was absolutely 150% on board with everything that was going on there. Loved it.
There's only one moment that I was like, Justin, sweetie.
There was a couple moments where I was like, Justin, come on, Justin.
But actually, I really like Justin's redemption in this season.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the best word for it.
The character arcs are so well written for these characters. I am invested in everyone. Mr. Porter, I was super on board with what was going on with Mr. Porter. Michaela, during one of his scenes, like, shouted because she was so happy.
Jessica and the friend she makes. I like that dynamic a lot.
Yeah, that was an interesting...
Kind of that back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I think that was an interesting part of the conversation that they didn't touch on with the first one, and it was kind of cool to see that support group talking to people who have had these experiences themselves, and how that conversation between them may not be any easier than it is to talk to someone who hasn't.
Well, you also see, like, on the surface, I forgot the friend's name, but, you know, you think that she's got it figured out. You think that she's taken her life back, and you kind of see it's still affecting her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to play cool, like, you know, she's got everything figured out. And really, she doesn't. And it's one of those things that, like, what they've been through it's the type of thing that you're never going to just let go of completely. It's always going to be a little bit there.
Yeah, and it takes a point to kind of to tell us how we should deal with those things, or that there are multitude of ways to deal with those kinds of things. Some better than others, obviously, but
having a campfire.
it doesn't go away, but it can be managed better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think this show does so much good, but people focus so hard on maybe what it could do better.
I mean, that's also kind of an important part of the discussion, but
yeah,
it just, I think overall the benefit of having the conversations about the subject matter of the show is just more important, because there are things that we don't talk about, but the things that people struggle with.
I mean, even right now, it's eliciting what I would consider a very healthy discussion about the subject matter, and I'd like to see more of that going forward. So hopefully, with season 3, which it seems like that might happen, there are lobbyists who are trying to shut it down.
Lobbyists who are trying to shut it down?
Or people who are lobbying to shut the show down, yeah.
Because of its subject matter?
Because of the way it handles a couple scenes, and there's an argument that it glamorizes suicide, which I think is just wrong.
Yeah, that's really stupid. And I mean, even if it did, the question is, does it have the right to exist? And I think in any case, yes, it has the right to exist. It's not doing anything explicitly illegal. You know, there's nothing shady about how they went about the production. It's a story. It's fiction. You know, hopefully, and it probably has. It's probably spurred a lot of conversations, and you know,
it's doing what it's
scares about. You know, questionable content causing people to make brash actions in the past, and it generally doesn't hold up. The
show's doing what it set out to do, and that it's starting the conversation.
Whether an uncomfortable conversation.
Whether or not the show becomes the Christ in the situation, where it ultimately sacrifices itself, that remains to be seen. But in the end, it set out what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
There's two interesting things about, like, lobbying against it. One, it's kind of free publicity for the show. And so it gets more attention, gives it a larger spotlight, so it's more likely to get more people watching it.
It's like,
but it also, like you said, it starts the conversation, but it also has a link to resources. So if you need the help, chances are you can find it.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a similar way to how PUBG, when they were suing Epic over Fortnite in the Battle Royale, you know, all of a sudden everybody knows what Fortnite is. A little bit differently, because I mean, this is a Netflix production, so people know about it because Netflix is like, yeah.
Well, I mean, this was a novel like 10 years ago, and it didn't get any attention. Well, not nearly the attention it has now until Netflix. So
yeah,
same thing.
Yeah.
So with that, we should move on into your next thing, Paul.
Oh, you're gonna like this. So last night I was looking at buying a movie on Vudu, and I bought Blockers, but I also saw that Love, Simon was on sale. So, like, two very different.
Yes, indeed.
Starting with Love, Simon, it's $10 on Vudu.
Love, Simon,
so
I, Tonya. What next?
I, Banana. But like EYE. Comma, banana.
So what'd you think?
That was a fantastic movie.
Isn't it?
Like, you, as much as you like push for me to watch it, like you undersold it, man. Like that movie's fantastic.
It's actually delightful is the word I would use.
Yeah, yeah. Like it was also another one that's kind of dealing with like a heavy, not super heavy theme, but like a taboo-ish subject. There are people that will watch this movie and, you know, brah, humbug.
Right.
But I think it was such a teenage movie and so great, and like such rich characters and such powerful dynamics.
And it also features the woman who plays Hannah in 13 Reasons Why, so a little crossover there.
It also has Kid Flash.
Oh, who is Kid Flash?
Kid Flash?
Bran.
Oh, okay.
I think was his name.
Logan, I think I watched this movie around the time that you were like super pushing for was it
Call
called?
Me by Your Name?
Call Me by Your Name, yeah.
Is Love, Simon the other gay movie?
Yes.
The other gay movie. That should have been their marketing.
And I was actually gonna follow, because I mean, Paul, you've seen Call Me by Your Name, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do they compare? I mean, whether you thought one was better or not, or maybe they're not better necessarily, just how are
Very
they
different tones.
Okay.
Like Love, Simon is a lot lighter, a lot faster too.
Yeah. Also, what like when does Love, Simon take place? Because I know Call Me by Your Name takes place in the 80s.
I think it's the present, isn't it?
Yeah, Love, Simon is the present.
Okay, so
technology actually plays a part in the movie.
Yeah.
More than I thought it would.
Because that's a huge difference, because in the context that they didn't really touch on in Call Me by Your Name, is that kind of relationship in the 80s was still very, you know, taboo. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously, like at the end,
it's kind of like Moonlight.
Yeah. Brandon, have you seen Call Me by Your Name at this point?
No, but I have seen Moonlight.
Okay, I'll go watch Love, Simon, and then you go watch Call Me by Your Name.
It's a done deal. I mean, I was gonna watch it anyway. It's just a matter of when.
Right. Yeah. But so I mean, in that context, it changes because, you know, Oliver was not sure how Elio's parents would react to a relationship like that.
Yeah.
But they were also in, you know, summer in Europe, and so you know, views differ.
Love, Simon touches on that kind of coming out anxiety a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, it's not really like the theme of the movie.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
it's neither is it in Call Me by Your Name, right? It's never explicitly said, but kind of like how they feel around how they try to, you know, keep it a secret for the most part. You know, so it just I will be interested to see Love, Simon for myself.
I don't want to talk like too deep into it because I want you to still be able to go and experience Love, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, even then, like I'm not big on being spoiled.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that makes it sound like I hate spoilers. I don't care. I just don't care.
Love, Simon was just interesting because like the consequences for Simon aren't because he's gay and he's keeping it. It was because he was keeping it a secret, and the steps he went to keep the secret that got him into trouble.
Yeah. It's kind of like the consequences of a pyramid scheme, I guess, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah. And so it's still like it wholesome comes to mind.
Yeah, this movie's very bright, very cheerful. I wouldn't exactly say trite, because that might be taking it too far. It kind of dips its toes into rom-com, but I don't know if saying it's a rom-com is exactly doing a service to the movie.
I mean, you could take the romance part, and that would have definitely been a rom-com.
It's like a nice mix between rom-com and drama, and obviously those things go hand in hand. But I think it leans just a little bit over rom-com, but the dramatic elements are still there, and the thematic elements of the movie are really cool too, like the technology, like Paul and I mentioned. So I think there'll be a nice contrast for you when you sit down and watch that.
Can't wait.
We had this kind of contrasty discussion about 2 other movies during the beginning of this show. Not this episode, but I'm trying to remember what it was. I like when we can compare things.
Yeah.
We should start a comparison series.
The comparison podcast.
Okay, but can we get to the real meat of Paul's movie discussions, though?
Blockers.
Blockers.
Go for it, Paul.
So, I mean, first off, disclaimer: this is I think directed by Seth Rogen, or at the very least, he's like a producer.
He's associated.
Yeah, and so like I can't say that this would be as impactful the second time around as it is the first time. It does dabble in its inappropriate humor a lot, and I think it does rely on that quite a bit.
Oh, this was actually directed by a woman.
Oh, hey,
yeah, considering
produced by Seth Rogen.
I think like it has really solid themes, and like the story around the comedy bits is really solid, and that's why like this movie reviewed surprisingly well.
Better than I thought, yeah.
You had thought that, Logan?
How did it? Well,
it was like an 86 on Rotten
Tomatoes. I was just gonna say, you said dirty humor, and the way you said it made it feel like you were suggesting like there's some dirty humor in this film, and I was like,
is it dirty humor without being cheap? Where does it kind of land?
Well, what I was getting at is like
cheap.
The movie is called Blockers, but in all of the promotional art, there's a rooster.
There's a rooster. Yeah, like it's obvious what they're going for.
Yeah,
I mean, if you know what the movie's about, which is why I didn't delve too deep into it.
Right.
Well, that's the plot of the film. Yeah.
What I meant by all that is that it has its cheap humor, but it does also have a lot of really great bits. Like John Cena in this movie is phenomenal.
That's like the main reason I wanted to see it, was because of John Cena.
Like, I mean, there's the infamous butt chug scene, which is pretty cheap, but like he has a lot of like before that. They're trying to sneak in this party, and they're posing as like teenagers, and they're clearly not. But like the kid they were talking to, who was calling them out on it, was specifically like, "You're the coppiest person I've ever seen. Prove to me you're not a cop." And like the whole time, he's in like full dad mode, and he's like critiquing these young kids, and it's kind of amazing. He's like, "Look at my haircut. This is a normal men's haircut. Go get a haircut." Just a lot of little things like that throughout the movie.
So, is it not amazing that this movie is sitting at a 69 on Metacritic?
I think they planned that.
Yeah, so like you said, like, oh, this movie feels like it shouldn't be as well reviewed as a 69, you know? Like that's pretty good.
I expected like,
I know a lot of people don't like Rotten Tomatoes, but I like it a little more than Metacritic in this case because it's binary. You either liked it or you didn't.
So I think I'm not going to dabble too much in the differences between the aggregate sites.
Well, they handle it very differently.
They all offer a different set of information. And it's not the information itself that it's bad, but it causes people to do nutty things.
Yeah.
And I think there's good interpretations and useful interpretations, pragmatics, things that you can do with that data. But at the same time, don't let it rule everything you do, right?
Well, I just mean like in general with this movie, regardless of the site, I was expecting like generously it'd be a 660, whatever.
Yeah.
And then to find out like Rotten Tomatoes had like 86, even the 69 on Metacritic, like That's way higher than I ever would have thought for this movie.
It's sitting at an
that's
83,
impressive.
83% for critics, and then and exactly 50% for audience score.
I could see that.
Yeah, you could see a lot of pretentious people walking into that film without.
I could see a lot of old people walking away because they're offended. This is the type of movie my dad would like. I'm offended.
But I also wonder what the demographics for the user base on Rotten Tomatoes is, and also like not just who uses it, but then also who's going to see this film, and which of those people are enjoying what.
Well, I feel like with user reviews too, like I don't inherently trust them because most people will leave a review when they dislike something, not always when they like it.
But vice versa, if I type in something like The Room, which comes up as Tommy Wiseau's The Room on Rotten Tomatoes, I wonder if it's on Metacritic. Regardless, like the user reviews for that film are great because of the type of experience that it is.
If you consider a 46% a great.
Did I ever talk about the disaster artist on the show?
Well, like, okay, do you know how awful that film is?
I don't think so.
And so to have a disproportionate number of people enjoy it.
I mean,
I watched that on one of our off weeks.
They're both failing
great. I
great.
did watch that. And I need to stop what I was saying to mention just how great the disaster artist was.
Very good movie.
And having like that background information, like, oh man.
Yeah.
It gives me even more appreciation for The Room.
Yeah. If anybody's wondering about The Room, it's a great bad film. Go watch it.
But not with your parents.
Might be the greatest bad film of all time.
The Disaster Artist is on Amazon Prime Video, so if you have Amazon Prime Video, it's there for free, I guess.
I was telling my coworker about that movie, and then he went and watched it. I'm like, man, you should have watched The Room first. He's like, I don't think I need to.
He hasn't seen The Room. Aww.
I know. He broke my heart. I was going to try and watch it with him.
The Room has a 9.
I wanted to watch it again. Guys, we need to have a movie night. Just watch The Room again.
Has a 9 on Metacritic.
I'm in. Where were we at with blockers?
We got distracted in the meta.
Give me more blockers, and we got to move on.
So, you have 3 parents, 3 kids, and all 3 parents are coming together to try and save their kids. From doing the nasty on prom night. That's the basic plot. The parents have a very interesting dynamic where they're like kind of pseudo friends because their kids are. But like one of the dads in particular is like, he got divorced from his wife. He's, the cheater. Come to find out, it's not exactly the situation. But you also have like John Cena's character. He's trying to like be friends and hang out with the woman. But she's I forget her name. I forget her character's name. But like she's trying to politely decline because she's not really interested in being friends with him. She's more focused on how her daughter's about to leave the nest and how she'll be alone because she was a single parent, and so her whole life has just been her and her daughter, and she's going to lose that. Completely ignoring the fact that there's this other person trying to reach out and be a friend to her. You have John Cena, who's the very stern parent, and he has the tomboy girl. And like,
I love the contrast.
Like, perfect football analogies, and like, she's the man's man.
I love that. I love everything about that.
And John Cena is just like such a dad, and he's very uptight, and it's just kind of amazing. But going to like the screw up father, the cheater, I think he had the most interesting dynamic with the 3 of them, because he'd be talking and he'd be like truly speaking from the heart, and they'd be ignoring him. Like it pans back out and they're just like talking about other things. But he also was like the most interesting of the 3 parents because he was trying to be supportive. He was trying to give his daughter the prom night he thought she deserved, so the best night possible. And he's actually trying to mostly stop the other 2 parents from interfering with that. same time, you find out that his daughter is gay, and he knows that.
Girls can't be gay.
They can.
They're like boys.
And so it was a more interesting dynamic in that case, because he wasn't necessarily trying to stop her from letting the freak flag fly, but he was trying to make sure she was staying true to herself.
It's an interesting approach.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so it's very interesting, the dynamics between the parents and the kids, and kind of seeing that unfold and seeing everyone grow together. So overall, it was a really good film that was also a comedy.
You don't often find those two things aligned, so that's always nice to hear.
I feel like they've been getting better in the last few years.
The same with horror movies, kind of a resurgence. Like, I've heard Hereditary is fantastic, but I'm too much of a lame-o to go see it.
Maybe I'll go see it.
I go on When's the Jump, or where'sthejump.com, to find out how many jump scares there are.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's for people like me. I get too anxiety's like through the roof, so I can't do it. But there's only 2 minor jump scares in that movie, so I'm like, I might be able to handle that. All right, Logan, what do you got for movies and TV?
Well, this week it was comedy and YouTube. Okay, so
I'm a pansy and I'm proud. I do play horror games.
I don't do either of those.
Johnny and I had been watching a show called Crashing on HBO. When the first season went up, it is a semi-autobiographical comedy series based around the comic Pete Holmes, and he plays the titular character. He plays a fictional version of himself, and it is very funny and it is very relatable. The character comes from a evangelical Christian background, and the first episode starts with his wife cheating on him and their marriage falling apart in the very first episode, and then everything that follows, and his life is crashing all around him, and he
there it is.
And the second season they started more exploring some of like his personal beliefs that the character held up to that point, but now that everything's falling apart, he's having the time of his life, and he's pursuing a career as a comedian. So it is good. Second season is good. I finished the second season. I watched the last 2 episodes today. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. Don't tell Johnny. Unless he's watching this, then
I mean, it's on the internet
Johnny,
now.
But I will be watching both of those episodes.
Come back like 2 weeks after he finishes it with you, and he's like, "Come on, dude, why?"
Yeah. So I'll watch it with him again. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, finish Crashing season 2, Johnny." And then I'll tell him that I talked about it on the podcast, and then maybe he'll watch the podcast.
He doesn't watch the podcast?
Don't even get me started on my wife.
Right.
Why does all our friends and family hate us?
Get no support. Where's that support from my family and friends? Gotta guilt trip him on like some Facebook post. Hey,
James can't believe you've done this.
Yeah, I can't believe I've done this either, right? But after I finished that, I watched Pete Holmes' Stand Up on HBO, which came out either last year or this year. It was very good. It was entertaining. He's a good comic. And lastly, I watched a three-part documentary from Shane Dawson.
I heard about this
on YouTube about TanaCon. Okay, and oh man, it was so gripping. It was so well made.
I've heard some good things about it. Yeah.
So I just think the whole TanaCon situation, I was like, I kept hearing about it, and then I started watching.
Was that the one where they?
What?
Should I go on blind?
Is that the debacle thing where they the kids signed up for like the concert thing, and they all just got trapped on that island?
Kind of.
That's different.
It's like the same thing, but it's not the same thing.
So it wasn't a music festival.
No, it wasn't a music festival.
Okay.
So TanaCon was.
Isn't there a movie for that
Tanamojo's-
particular situation already?
What?
Anyway,
Wait, what do
keep
you
going. Sorry, Paul reminded me of something.
So
Substance.
Tanamojo is like, screw VidCon. I hate VidCon. They did some shady things, so I'm gonna start my own convention. And then she like got a bunch of like YouTube creators, like big YouTube creators, including Shane Dawson, which is why he ended up making the documentary, because he was highly, highly involved. To the point like he kind of realized after the fact, because it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. I'll spare some of the larger details, but turns out a lot of the people that showed up primarily because of Shane Dawson, even though it was TanaCon, because he was such a big. He's huge, right?
He's like legacy YouTuber.
He's been around for a long time, and he's still very popular.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the first part in the documentary had like 9.6 million views last time I checked it. And
Yeah, I looked it up before the show because I wanted to watch it.
So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for Shane as a creator. I watched him years ago when he was still doing like sketch comedy and characters and stuff on his Shane Dawson TV channel. Now he just does it on his does stuff on his Shane channel for the most part. And it's like mostly like just topical videos and vlogs. And man, he has such a big following.
I've kind of danced around his vlogs a bit. I haven't seen like much of the legacy stuff.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting for a number of reasons. Interesting because it felt like a reality television show. But the characters felt actually like it was not scripted. It just was people trying to get to the bottom of something and documenting it along the way. But man, there was a lot of drama, and that's always fun, right? People like screaming at each other. Like, this feels like an episode of some weird
TV show.
Yeah, weird TV show, except this is people going through the motion, screwing up. Yeah, and so like everybody was just kind of looking for somebody to blame, right? Something goes down and somebody needs to take the blame, right? And so everybody's just hurling all this information, and Shane went about it. He goes to people, I'm going to have people discuss things with other people, and guess what? We're going to figure out what happened, and we're going to figure out how to fix it. And that's what it ended up. It's like, it wasn't perfect, and it's like, okay, well, now we know what happened. And at the very, very end of the video, like, he had gathered more information, and he just had a list of like figures and of like how many people were actually in attendance, how many tickets were sold, how much money was involved, who hired what, where was there miscommunication, who screwed up. And it was just like, it felt like an adult, Shane is 29 at this point, kind of like reprimanding children for like doing something stupid, right? Because Tana's like 20, and the guy who was running the like entertainment company, the booking company, the management company, Good Times or whatever, like the CEO, it's literally, I think he's the sole proprietor. He just has a bunch of like extra like interns or something like that. That's what I've heard of. But he's like 21. So like, these are babies, and they're trying to run a convention, and they're also trying to do it in a very short period of time. And the reasons for doing them are kind of like, why are you going through this trouble just for these reasons, you know?
You hear about the dumb stuff like this a lot with like esports tournaments, with tournament organizers that don't know what they're doing.
So yeah, so I think honestly the most exciting, the best part about this is, one, it's entertaining. It's really entertaining. Like, go watch this if you haven't, right?
Where can you watch it?
YouTube.
Yeah. And then it's a 3-parter. So you watch one part, and then you take a break, and then you come back and you watch another part.
What's the runtime?
It's about 25 minutes for the first one, about half an hour for the second, and about 42 minutes for the third.
So like an under 2-hour runtime total, like an hour and a half.
Yeah. So I watched the first two like back to back because they were already out, and then the third one came out today, so I watched it a few hours ago. It was good. I liked it, and I liked that there was like this responsible adult who was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. You guys are gonna take the blame, and I'm gonna tell you how you guys screwed up, but we're gonna fix it. We're gonna get it all figured out.
I love that about Shane, because you know he's played like really wacky and unstable characters, so to see him like play the figurehead here is kind of amazing.
Yeah, I think it's just somebody who's been through a lot, and you know has grown up, because you know by the time you're 29, you're almost in your 30s, and you've got a lot of wisdom under your belt that you did not have at 2021.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, oh, it's some big conspiracy. Somebody's trying to make $1 million off of this, and but the evidence just doesn't support that. What the evidence support is that 2 very young people got in way over their heads with a bunch of other young people, and they ended up screwing people over because they were being reckless, not because they were being malevolent. But just they were reckless,
uninformed, too fast.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of things, right? You know, people attribute. I think there's some saying that I hear again and again: don't attribute to malevolence what you can attribute to stupidity, and that's certainly true in this case as well. Go watch it; it's really great. Shane's.
I think I know what I'm doing for the rest of the night.
And I can't believe I'm back on his stuff, because I'm like, I think that happened with Philip DeFranco too, as I kind of fell off of him for a little bit, but recently been back on. So that's been my week with movies and TV.
I've been having a similar experience with Smosh, because I fell off Smosh a long time ago, but it's just Ian now. But they're seeing a lot of success with that series they do, Every Blank Ever. And they just handle a different subject with each video.
I don't know how, but it's been running for quite a while.
Another legacy YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute. You kind of reminded me, another YouTube documentary that you might like to watch, especially if you're a Smash fan, is there is a documentary documenting the esports scene for Super Smash Bros. Ever since its inception. I think it's like 10 episodes long, runs like 5 hours in total, and it was very good. So if you want some background,
and that's called
The Smash Brothers. The Smash Brothers. I would highly recommend it.
Smash Bros.
There's a sequel coming out soon. It's a one-man show, and he's getting close. He just finished the rough cut on the second part, or the second installment.
Super Smash Bros. Documentary Melee.
Sure. Yeah, that's what it will be called. So yeah, some good free documentaries available on YouTube. With that, we will jump into the old anime segment.
Yay!
I've been watching a lot of Boruto's dad recently. So I wasn't sure if I was like fully committing, and then I blinked and I'm on episode 56. So yeah, that happened in like a week.
I mean, you're not fully committed until you're like 200 episodes into Shippuden.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at your list, and I didn't know this is Brandon, how you just have it written in as Boruto's dad and Boruto's dad, next generation.
It was hard for me. Like I was doing some back end stuff, trying to get ready to like post this, and for Boruto's dad, next generations, I legitimately could not decipher what that was. Because I'm not familiar. I didn't know it was like Boruto, Naruto, Next Generations.
It's the official title of the anime. Yeah.
So I see Boruto twice. Like, what is this?
It is one of my favorite memes in recent memory. It's just
It's pretty great.
you know, this series is targeted at a new audience. For the future of Naruto, like the next generation of viewers. So there's a meme going around where the next generation of viewers don't know who Naruto is, so they refer to him as Boruto's dad. And then you see, like, this is Boruto's dad, and then there was another series called Boruto's Dad Shippuden.
I like the one, like the one that started it was someone's like, yeah, I really like this Boruto.
Oh,
They
yeah.
should make, but his dad's pretty cool. They should make it a show centered around Boruto's dad.
What about Boruto's dad's adventures? That'd be a great manga. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
Who's Boruto's dad?
I'm glad you asked.
He's the Hokage.
So, Naruto. I am currently in the Chunin exams arc, and for those of you who are familiar with Naruto would know that the Chunin exams is like 50 plus episodes long. It is a ridiculously long arc.
So long.
Followed
it's one
by
of the first, like, major arc.
It is the second major arc. And the two, there's only two more after that, are only 26 episodes apiece. So this is a meaty boy. I am currently in the Chunin exam finals.
Oh, hey. That didn't take you very long.
Yeah, the next episode is the first match of the Chunin exam finals. For those of you familiar with shonen anime, every anime since Dragon Ball, every one of them has a tournament arc. All of them. There is not one without a tournament arc. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's the best arc, but it's great. It's not bad by any means.
Fight me.
I actually really like, I think all four main arcs in the original Naruto are very strong. The first one takes some time to figure out what it's doing, but that final act of the first arc is so good. And then the second arc, Chunin exams, has been great from start to finish. The arc that follows is really good, and the one after that is really good. So yeah, I'm enjoying reliving it. It's weird because, like, you know, you think with an anime like this, you know, shonen anime have like those really hype moments where the hero does something unexpected and spectacular. Those moments still hit home for me, like even when I already know what's coming. It just feels good, and I love that. Yeah. So kind of revisiting the show has been really therapeutic for me, I think. Yeah. So looking forward to watching the rest of that. Don't know if I'll get through Shippuden when I get to that part. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
At the very least, at that point, I'd say, like, use a filler guide. You've seen all the filler.
Yeah, I'm not watching
the
filler.
Whether you like it or whatnot, but
even then, it's still like a 400 episode commitment. Part 1 is a lot easier to digest than part 2.
Did they finish dubbing Shippuden?
Part 2 is getting close to completion on the dub. Miley Flanagan has tweeted out that she has recorded her final episode.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, holy crap.
I don't know if Miley Flanagan's gonna come back for Boruto. I'd be disappointed if she didn't. But she did the movie, so, like, she did the movie.
Yeah.
When are we getting a Boruto's dad, Kai?
I don't know, but Boruto, I was gonna call it Boruto's dad, like, legitimately.
Boruto's grandpa. That's the show I want.
That'd be a good show. Anyway, Naruto. Naruto does not need a Kai version nearly as badly as part 2. Naruto can stand alone just fine as it is right now, because it is a pretty direct adaptation of the manga. Little bit of fluff here and there, but
they condense the fluff to one area of it for the most part.
There is a big block of 100 episodes that says this is filler, but everything before that, well, most of it is canon, and then there's like one canon episode at the end of Naruto. So
I would say for Naruto, like, make Naruto Kai, but do part 1 and 2. Just condense all of that down into just one.
Just call it all Naruto.
Kai. Yeah,
because
like the
manga is just Naruto from start to finish. It's not like Dragon Ball, where it actually became Dragon Ball Z at one point. So yeah, loving Naruto. I'm remembering why I love the show so much. Another
How's
thing,
his kid?
I'll get to his kid in a second.
Okay.
It's funny to me. I remember, like, there's a very distinct point where I think that Miley Flanagan really figures out how to perform Naruto, and I think it actually comes down to the episode. Like,
what's the episode?
So, like, the episode right after the preliminary, or not right after the preliminaries, it's like right after Naruto's fight in the preliminary Chunin exams, like right after that, every performance from Miley Flanagan is just perfect, or like as perfect as you could get for that performance. And I'm like, I don't know if, like, the voice director just, like, flipped a switch, or if they realized what they were doing wrong.
The emotion of that fight, that preliminary fight, probably just, or the end of it. Or who went right after Naruto?
Right after Naruto is Rock Lee? No, it's Hinata versus Neji.
Because that's what I thought. That's an emotional fight. And so that might have been the switch.
I think you're right, actually.
Crap's getting real.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but man, she just figures it out, like, all at once, and I'm like, that's the Naruto I came for. So yeah, loving that. Boruto's dad, Next Generations. It's interesting. So, like, we are in the absolute final act of the movie now, as far as the plot goes. The final battle. So it will not be long before I find out what happens next, which I've been waiting for.
So they did the same thing that
you read the manga?
It does exactly the same thing that Dragon Ball Super did. However, it
does it well?
It does it really well. This arc is actually incredibly well crafted as far as an adaptation is concerned, because it uses the animation from the movie whenever that applies. It just cuts it out, puts it in the show. And then you have all these extra scenes on top of that that build character relationships, build the world out a little bit more, and it really makes a nice, stellar package for someone who's already seen the movie. Like, I am enjoying myself, you know, revisiting it with all this extra information.
How many episodes did they expand it into?
I think a full 26 season.
Because that's, you know, an hour and a half long film, so, like, if you're breaking that out between 26 episodes, you're going to have a lot of new, which is probably, like, my chief complaint with all the rehashing that they've done with the movie's plot.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, you and I...
4 times that I've seen it.
Paul and I have seen the movie subbed, we've seen it dubbed, we've read the manga, we experienced the story in the video game. So for me to say that this is a good adaptation is a really, like, powerful thing.
Yeah.
They're doing it justice, and I'm really pleased with it so far. I just hope that whatever follows it can succeed in continuing that momentum, because right now it's really good. I'm enjoying myself a lot.
That's the important thing.
Couldn't be any more than just 3 or 4 more episodes before it's over. I should also mention that this arc has like a 5 or 6 episode build-up before it starts, so they even lead into it really well. So I can't praise it enough. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next in the story. I feel like I've been in the same place in the timeline of the Leaf Village since...
Welcome to Naruto!
Since we saw the movie in theaters. It's like I haven't seen really much past that since then. So it's very exciting for me. It's like when I was watching Dragon Ball Super when it was first airing in Japan, and the first, like, 26 episodes of that, which was 6 months, by the way, was just me revisiting something that was so much better in the movies. So to kind of have that reversed feels good.
Yeah.
I did not do what you guys did, which I'm assuming you both watched the sub for My Hero Academia. I have locked myself into the dub, so I'm not watching anymore until the dub comes out.
I watched the sub the last 2 weeks.
Same. I'm gonna go back and watch the dub when it's available, but
yeah,
I will not be stopped where we are at.
For me, I just kind of want to package my experience all in one format.
Yeah, and I think it's okay too, because I mean we start getting the dub again next week.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, the next episode just kind of wraps up kind of a lot of the stuff that's happening and transitions it. And then the most recent episode kind of just continues on that and sets up
the
for
fun
what's to come next.
In between, it's the fun little bit,
yeah, because
where everything's kind of normal again.
Yeah, everything's... It's like not filler, but it feels like it could be filler in a sense.
My Hero has kind of been dividing its seasons up into 2 arcs apiece. So I guess we're moving into that second arc, because we're only like 12 or 13 episodes in right now. Out of a total of 25, I think it will come to.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, like in the case of Naruto, the dub was like 3 million episodes behind the sub. It was like several hundred, actually. Yeah. So, following up with sub made sense. In this case, I can deal with 3 episodes behind.
Yeah. And I'll probably stop watching the sub, you know, now that the dub's getting going again. And, I mean, I won't have episodes for the next 2 weeks, other than the dubbed episode, but at least I'll have like the dub to watch, right? Man, I was so spoiled. I was so spoiled for the first half of the season. You know, it's like we got them the same exact day.
We gotta give them a lot of credit, because that cannot be easy to pull off. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was logistically, man. And then getting the performance as high quality in such a short period of time as well. Like, yeah, that's a lot of work. So I mean,
all the performers have fallen into their characters by this point, and I would say that they did it pretty quickly to begin with.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, we still get the simul dub, but we just get it 2 weeks instead of 6 months.
The almost simul dub.
Right.
Mostly simul dub.
So that's my experience with anime this week. I still have to catch up on Shokugeki now that the season's concluded, and we'll have to talk to Roger about getting our show together for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you got for anime, Paul?
Well, I watched the finale to Shokugeki no Soma.
Is that the finale?
For season 3, yeah.
It's an ongoing manga. We're not going to be done for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, it left it in the middle of the action.
Much like season 1.
Please tell me they've already confirmed season 4, though.
I think we're safe. I think we have surpassed the layer of doubt that there will be like a next season every season. I think we're fine.
Is there going to be a dub for that show?
It's already been dubbed.
Oh, has it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just not on a Verb.
Yeah, I don't know where you can really watch that, and you know, I've been into the sub for so long that I don't see myself switching over. Yeah,
right.
And this is not a dub versus sub situation, because I will watch either.
Right.
I'd eventually like to go back and watch the dub for it, but
yeah, I'd like to see how they handled it.
If it was actually like available by like legal means right now, I'd be all over.
You probably could buy it on some exorbitant price.
Oh yeah, those Blu-rays are steep.
You think I could afford Blu-rays?
He's giving you credit where he thinks you deserve it there, Paul.
Fair enough.
What else do we have on the old anime?
So, I watched Black Clover, and I had to get caught up because I missed. And it really heated up.
I was about to say, this is your burner show that you just kind of throw on.
Well, it was. Last time I had watched it, I legitimately couldn't tell if this was a filler arc or if this was like the beginning of the next arc. It felt so fillerish that I just could not figure out if it was or not.
I had that experience with Boruto for a while.
Yeah. Finally found out that it wasn't.
It's canon?
This arc, yeah, it's canon, and this arc is really, really good. Like, holy crap, they cranked it up a couple notches. We're seeing certain characters fight for the first time. Senior characters, so it's like seeing Kakashi fight for the first time.
Oh, what a lovely moment.
Except, to a degree, it's kind of like watching the Hokage, but not quite the Hokage, because there is that one person at the very top of their social structure.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine that there's only like maybe 8 Jonin total, and then getting to watch one of them fight for the first time. That's what happened.
It's a very high class caliber person.
And like, while that's going on, he's teaching Asta to kind of work around one of his biggest shortcomings, being that he can't sense other people's magic. But just because you can't feel out people's magic doesn't mean you can't sense their ki. I'm not making this up. He taught him how to sense ki.
Bye, Brandon. Okay, I'm taking over.
Logan's hosting
Welcome
now.
to the Logan
that was
podcast.
short-lived.
Okay, so how did they play that off? Did he
Brandon
just write himself
wants to
into a
talk
hole,
about it.
or?
So it's not like sensing their energy. It's using all of your senses to kind of feel your opponent out, like, and anticipate their move. So it's a half anticipation, half using all senses to focus in on what they're doing.
Okay.
And so it isn't exactly like, I can sense your energy.
We will be talking
Power
about
levels.
Megalobax, Moose Man. That will happen
Yep.
shortly.
And so, like, there was that. It actually does make Asta a more interesting protagonist now because he's able to fight an even higher class of enemies. And now that he's able to kind of, like, anticipate what they're doing and react to it in time, like...
Do they kind of play Asta off like a loser at the beginning, or where does he kind of stand?
He's still kind of a loser. There's, like, the handful of people that believe in him and really see just what's going on. You have this kid that doesn't have any magical power in this society that ranks people based on how much magic they have. And so you have this kid that you think is going to be a loser, but he trained so hard to overcome it. And so he's actually kind of really powerful. And he takes down people with a lot of magic very early on. And
Okay.
really kind of, really quickly breaks down these perceptions about him.
That's
To the point, like, he even gets the attention of, like, the Wizard King.
That's a bit of a different spin than
Yeah.
Naruto, because I going back while I was watching Naruto, I forgot how much of a loser he really was.
Sad boy.
He really didn't know what he was doing.
I mean, Black Clover, I believe, is another shonen. And
Yeah.
It's not quite like My Hero Academia level, and it's hard to reach that. But for what it is, like, it is a really solid show.
Okay, so it doesn't
With a slow start.
it doesn't surpass its seniors much in the way My Hero does, because I would say My
don't-
Hero has surpassed its seniors at this point.
Yeah.
It's pushed the genre forward.
It's exactly what we needed.
I mean, I love shonen, and so I enjoy this. But in terms of, like, quality or, like, trying to relate to other ones, it's par. It's
Fair
a
enough.
shonen.
That's fine.
But moving on, I also was behind on Steins Gate Zero. Watch Steins Gate, guys. Please.
It'll happen.
Please.
I don't know if I can fit it in my busy schedule.
Yeah, watch all that fighting Foodons, I know.
All that Shokugeki that you are not probably going to watch.
Yeah, Shokugeki. I love shows about food. I love anime, but I hate anime shows about food.
They hate you too.
They suck.
Logan dislikes fighting Foodons, confirmed. We're sorry, people. I know we all had high hopes
It's
that Logan would watch
so
fighting Foodons
charming.
and love it, that he would make up his own fighting Foodons.
His own
But he
fighting
just...
Foodons.
Fine. Okay, do you know?
He'd write his
I'm gonna
own
make
Fighting Foodons
My next
fan
video is
fiction.
gonna be on fighting Foodons. You
Okay.
did this to me.
Please make a fan
Your
fiction
your
and then
OC.
read it.
Why fighting Foodons should be a video game?
It probably
Yeah.
is a video game. That's a
Why
sad thing.
fighting Foodons should still be a video game.
Fighting Foodons.
Let me wrangle this back in. Where are we at? Steins Gate?
Yeah, Steins Gate Zero. So I've been watching that, and it's in the current, like, timeline, they haven't made a time machine, and the protagonist isn't going to, and he's trying really hard to just live his life, and that's kind of what the season is about. He made a timeline where he had to sacrifice a friend, but everybody else is fine, which is something that you don't really get in that original timeline that the main series follows. But somehow he found himself kind of hurtled back to that other timeline, and it was just, it's heating up, and it's a really good show, and it's still really good, and you guys need to watch it. And you're hurting my feelings because you haven't. It's so good.
But as far as the show that you both are watching, how about that Megalobox?
I just watched the first episode today, and holy art style. It reminds me a lot of like Cashin Sins, or it has like almost like an old school art style to it, but it's a modern anime.
It feels very what's the show I'm looking for?
Cowboy Bebop?
Cowboy Bebop. It feels very Cowboy Bebop in its animation and its mood. Even the main character, he's like the boxing analog of Spike Spiegel. You know,
Big mood.
Yeah,
He's got that hair.
I, on the other hand,
does.
finished the last episode because I've been watching it weekly, and it finished up this week. It is the season finale, and I think maybe the series finale. 13 episodes, nice and quick, and it's really, really friggin' good. It's really good.
I was sold that boxing, you know.
There's not a dull moment. I mean, you
can't in a 13 episoder.
13 episode, man, it's just quite literally punch after punch after
Heyo.
if you like boxing,
It's hard.
if you like anime, if you like Megalo boxing,
But what if
you like
I like anime
fun,
and I
you
like boxing, but I don't like anime shows about boxing?
then maybe you should watch
Big mood.
more anime boxing shows. But if they're food anime shows, don't even waste your time. Don't even waste your time. Yeah, no, Megalobox. Oh, yeah. What was it, Moose Man, in the comments here talking about Megalobox and how good it is. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing more.
I'm not sure if it's like one of the best of the year or the best of all time. I don't feel like I'm at liberty to kind of give it that.
Does it make your top 5 boxing anime?
Yes,
Does
hands
it
down.
Does it rank in this season, like in this season of new shows?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of my favorite things. I mean, what I'm currently watching, this is like my second favorite thing behind My Hero.
I'd say that's an accomplishment. It's
Yeah,
hard to even
no,
come close to that.
It's very, very good. I cannot recommend it enough, and I will not stop recommending it. Like, it's really good.
It's been on my watch list since like this season of anime started, and I just never got
And
around
again,
to it.
It's 13 episodes. Space them out, you know?
That's an afternoon for me.
Maybe even just do an episode a week, you know? Just spread it out for the next few months.
Let's do it every 2 weeks, even.
Yeah.
Once a
Spread
month.
the rest
It'll
of-
take over a
spread-
year.
Not that
There we
slow.
go.
But, you know, don't rush through it. It's only 13. Like, don't binge it all in one day, okay? At
Too late.
At least
Challenge
watch it over
accepted.
the course of a week.
Challenge accepted.
I can do that, but I can also watch 56 episodes of Naruto in one week.
So,
I like what you're about, Brandon.
well, I mean, you want people to watch something, but I mean, savor this one. Really, that's why I tell you to slow down, right? Not because you couldn't enjoy it in one night, but sometimes, like, I don't know, for me, watching it weekly and being able to watch it start to finish, 13 episodes, was just really, really, it was gratifying, right? I like watching, the last time I watched a show that was subbed, and I watched it, like, week after week when it was coming out, was Kill la Kill a few years ago. And again, like, really, just, it's a good experience. A good way to experience a short anime.
Oh yeah, and you know, I think it's different with something like Naruto, which is so long. Like,
Yes.
I can watch that in blocks, and
You have to watch 50 or 56 episodes in a weekend if you ever want to get through it.
Yeah. But that 56 episodes might equal the same amount of narrative that 13 episode Megalobox accomplished.
Right.
Yeah, I'll probably definitely watch that. Now that the season's over, I can kind of pace it however I want to.
Right.
So I'll probably
I
check
hope it
that
gets
out.
a dub. If it comes out dubbed, I'll probably be picking it up.
One anime I want to kind of bring to light really quick is something my wife binged on Netflix called Violet
Fighting
Evergarden.
Foodons?
Not Fighting Foodons. It's Violet Evergarden, which I want to say takes place during World War II. Don't quote me on that.
Not another one. Don't do this to me, Brandon.
It's different.
It better be.
It's
I'll cry.
it's about these people, and their whole job is to write letters for other people.
What do you mean, those people?
So,
Sorry,
like,
carry on.
the main character, Violet, her job is to write letters for other people to other people. So it's like you experience people's feelings and emotions through another character. And this character has a very slight understanding of human emotion and feeling because of the way she's raised. So you get an interesting perspective on these characters and their lives. And also, it's animated beautifully. It's a very pretty show.
This is a Netflix original, yeah?
Yep, it is currently dubbed. And today, they just announced a movie. So,
Wow.
You should add that to the show notes so I can remember to watch it later.
yeah. I was kind of watching it passively as Michaela was watching it because that was while I was playing Pokemon Sun. But I could tell while I was like glancing over and listening every now and again that I was missing out on something that I should be watching.
How many times do you cry watching it passive?
Never.
How many times did Michaela cry?
Many.
How many times am I gonna cry?
Like once an episode. Each episode kind
Once
of...
an episode?
Each episode, it's the way it's paced is each episode is another character and another story. As far as I could tell, it's kind of like Mushishi in that way, where every episode is its own tale.
That's another show I need to rewatch.
Mushishi's so good. If you haven't seen
I need to
Mushishi, watch it.
Did I ever finish the first season?
I need to
I think I
watch the
finished the
second.
first
There's two
season. I need to
seasons.
watch the second
Did season 2 get
second
dubbed?
season more recent. Second season wasn't out when we watched the first season. At least when I started.
What was an episode that's
Like freshman
What's
year
up,
of
Joe?
college.
It's the way it handles its narrative, so you get a complete narrative with every episode, for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'll cry every episode.
But there is also an overarching plot. It's much different than Mushishi in that way. So there's a big story, and then these little stories in every episode. So just wanted to throw out that recommendation before we moved on to the final segment of the show. Video
Whoa.
games.
We have a podcast?
And this might be the biggest part, which is sad, because I have to go to dinner soon, so we're gonna have to fly through this.
Dang it,
Here we
Brandon.
are. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. This is what happens when the podcast format changes.
Yeah, thank God we can actually talk.
Yeah, we can actually talk about the stuff we're doing. This one we can all kind of talk about, at least you and I, Logan. Grand Theft Auto 5. We've been spending a...
Grand Theft
You act
Auto
like
5.
I've never
Paul,
played that
where you
before.
been?
I
Where you
played this
been?
years ago. Okay,
But
I'm sorry.
we're
but
playing
just now got to the party.
multiplayer
Yeah, we're playing the online, man.
with
I did a little bit of
friends.
We're
that
having a ton
years
of fun.
ago.
And I'm
But
like,
he's doing
losing
a lot of
lung
it.
laughing.
You cut out. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was gonna say we've been online and I've been
You cut out in the same place.
losing a lung.
There
I
we go.
lost my lung because I laughed too much.
That first time we
It's so
played...
Friggin' fun.
That first time we played together, we accomplished nothing in like a 3-hour period. Because
Great.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do with Grand Theft Auto?
I guess, but like there are actual goals in multiplayer.
Yeah,
you do
if
highs.
you hate yourself
okay,
and
we
you don't want
got-
to play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because that's how like everybody plays it, right? Because like even in the single player, like I'm trying to get to like a mission or something like that, and it takes me like half an hour than it actually would take if I would just go to the place I needed to go to and not screwed around and gotten in a million cop chases
See,
before I got there.
that's the weird thing. I have a lot less fun playing like that, at least in single player, because the game sets a goal out in front of me, and my mind
Right.
is saying, "All right, I just need to go do this." Let me go do
I get
it.
distracted all the time.
My experience was like with the single player, I would play a mission and like half the time I would get super distracted like you, Logan, but the other half of the time like I was able to like stay focused, and once I started the mission I would keep going from mission to mission.
Right.
It was always when I started that I'd goof off for a while and then I'd get back to it.
It's weird
It
because
wasn't until I got done with the story that like the only time you turn it on is to just goof off.
the open world feels a little differently for me than say Breath of the Wild, because the way the Breath of the Wild presents its game to you, I guess, is by piquing your interest and encouraging distraction. Whereas to GTA, I feel like every experience outside of just playing the game is very samey. You know what's going to happen. You're going to get into a car chase. Police are going to come after you. You're going to kill people. You're going to blow something up.
That part is so appealing in and of itself. You know,
it is.
Like it holds up.
Not as much for me. I fall in a little different spot. Like I enjoy doing that, but to a much less degree.
Right. Well, regardless, you get online, and a lot of the times you do. And when you do the same things online with your friends, it just makes it that much more fun, right?
Well, yeah, I enjoy goofing off online more than single player.
Right. Yeah. And then also being able to accomplish a difficult heist and succeed at it is really gratifying. And then also just being able to, it's a lot more sandboxy in the online, because one, you get to design your own character. Two, you can buy any number of properties for garages and stuff, so you have a lot more customization.
You're also not alone.
For that. Yes. So it's I like GTA. I've been playing a lot of single player.
Oftentimes Logan and I would get like into a bad situation with a player who likes to take their vengeance very seriously and will constantly kill you over and over and over and over again. And since you spawn close to where you died, it just kind of doesn't end until you go into passive mode or they get off.
I mean, the fact that you get the passive mode option, you know, is good though.
What's that, Logan?
The fact that you get the passive mode option, right?
Yeah.
That you kind of gives you a chance to get away from that stuff if you want. I never used it because I was always stubborn, so.
I just don't enjoy that kind of experience. Like, that's not what I'm online for. And being forced into those kinds of situations. Because the other thing about passive mode is if you go into passive mode, you can't do any of the things that you want to do in GTA.
Right.
So it's almost like if that's going to happen to you, you might as well just leave the session or go offline in the first place.
Right.
So I take issue with that a little bit, but overall my experience with GTA 5, just in general, has been very positive, and also online has been very positive. So I want to play more of that. Paul, we got to get you online, man.
I will.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe on a week when I'm not making a video.
That was last week. This is this week.
The week just started.
I've also been playing a little bit of Everspace. Everspace is a roguelike that takes place in space. You shoot things, you get money, you do a story. It's about it.
It's in VR.
It's in VR.
It's space.
The VR mode is not great.
Oh, it's not?
No. In fact, I would highly advise against playing it in VR at all, because it's not good.
But the game itself is good.
Yeah. Roguelikes aren't my favorite to begin with, but the thing about Everspace that makes it appealing, and like the same for Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon, is, you know, I can play it and not feel stressed to accomplish something. I can just kind of play a couple rooms, get some gear, save and quit, come back to it later. So I don't feel stressed to play Everspace in the way I feel stressed to play other games.
Right.
We spent some time playing Payday 2. That's been fun. I don't know how much of that have we talked about on the show.
I don't think we got to.
Okay, so
I think we started playing after the show.
The funny thing is like the Steam summer sale started, and we were all looking at games like, what can we buy? What's going to be multiplayer? GTA 5 ended up being the multiplayer game we all bought in. But then we all realized we had Payday 2, and we're like, we've never played this together.
Yeah, we
also Borderlands 2. Like I remember buying Borderlands 2 and Payday 2 specifically so we could all play a multiplayer, and then we just never did.
Yeah. At least we started. I had a lot of fun with Payday 2. It's kind of like Counter-Strike in terms of speed, and the gunplay seems fit similar to me, at least. And the variety of missions, there's a lot of that. I wasn't expecting there to be as much variety as there is. At least... Yeah,
there's a lot of variety. There's
at least so far. There's also a lot of cops.
I wish there was a little more direction in some of the heists at the same time. Like, figuring out what's going to happen next, what you're supposed to be doing, is kind of half the fun. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of time. Like, I remember the, was it a mall?
The Christmas one, yeah.
Where we kept dying, and, like, it took us a while to figure out what we were doing.
Yeah, that was an experience for sure. But it was fun. Like, we had to go slap Santa in the face or fake Santa to tell us where we have to go next. And one thing I like a lot about it is with those missions that require you to go collect the thing, go to the place, get the information, and, you know, that kind of thing. It randomly generates every time you restart. So it, you know,
slightly different.
The car dealership.
The car dealership was a great example of that, where we had to go find the manager, get his key card, go into his room, figure out who the new hire was, get to the new hire's computer, steal the information, and then get to the storage room and steal the key. But the
storage room would move around, and the new employee would change, and where everyone's computer would also change.
Yeah, and the manager's position would change too, but he would just kind of walk around the dealership. So that made for a really interesting approach. Like, we kind of developed a strategy that we could kind of loosely follow, because not all of that, like, individual information was going to be the same.
You know the order of events, you just don't know where exactly things are going to be. So there's a bit of searching, but you know, like, oh, hey, we know where the new or where to find out where the new hire is. We know where the computers are. We have to go there and look for this new hire once we figure out who he is.
And didn't, like, on one of the first runs of that, Logan, wasn't it you that just kind of walked in there with your mask on and alerted everybody?
The first thing you did was put your mask on, I think.
Okay, no, so I didn't alert everybody. First thing I did, I put my mask on, and you can't take it off, at least not to my knowledge.
Oh, yeah, so you couldn't go in the building with us afterwards.
Yeah, and so you guys went in the building, you guys started screwing around. I don't know what's happening. And then eventually, like, you guys alerted them. And somebody did something stupid and alerted them, and then I was like, okay,
we had a lot of instances of someone did something stupid. Let's not lie.
There was a later mission when we were in an apartment complex or like a business building or something, and like the first thing I did was accidentally tap the key to throw a grenade.
Yeah. Man, that's a game that we need to continue to play.
Yeah. It's fun.
Because it's a lot of fun, and then a lot of those scenarios that we'll end up inevitably replaying, we'll get better at them.
And the progression system is like fair. It always feels like you're moving forward. It kind of like fools you because you level up so much, but like each individual level up really isn't worth that much in the first place. But you unlock a lot of guns, you unlock a lot of equipment. I really feel like every time I play, the reward was worth it in the end. They've developed a really good system with that, I think. So and Joe in the chat says we need to hit him up to play some Payday 2. We were missing out on our fourth player. Yeah. And Joe, you would be the experienced one in the group. We would probably all look bad compared to you.
That makes it more fun.
Logan, something you and I have been playing together is Left 4 Dead 2.
To invite me, guys.
Left 4 Dead 2. I've played Left 4 Dead 2.
The time we played, you were well past asleep at that point. Actually, it started because Alvin wanted to play something with me, and I saw Logan, you were online, and I was like,
Didn't we only get through like 2 chapters of a campaign?
We played through 3, actually. Because Alvin's computer crashed on him during the second one, so he got off after that. But then you and I played it out, and then played an additional one on top of it.
And then like later in the week, I think it was this weekend at some point, this past weekend, me and James played through one of the campaigns, like all 5 chapters. James is the one in the chat. And I've known James for quite a while, and so just hit him up the other day, and we just started playing other stuff. In addition to like Left 4 Dead 2, we played some Portal 2 just through the beginning parts. Lots of. I've played a lot of Valve this week. Okay?
I noticed.
A lot of
Tell Alvin to quit working nights so I can play with him.
I'll tell him. Outside of Left 4 Dead 2, I played a little bit more Mario Tennis Aces. Still enjoying that game. Currently, the July tournament is open, and you unlock Koopa Troopa for playing that.
Oh, snap.
I'll be doing that. I really hope that they fluff out the multiplayer modes a little bit with some free content updates. I think the game is in a state where it needs that. I don't think it's quite there yet. But like I said, and as many other gameplay reviews have mentioned, the gameplay is really solid. But I don't...
Gotta fix that package around it.
Yeah, it can't stand on its own like that. There needs to be more. Splatoon, you know, it launched with incredible gameplay, really revolutionary concept, but it had 5 maps and 1 mode, and you couldn't play with your friends. But they fixed it, so I'm kind of hoping that we can fix it again. The fact that we have to fix it is disappointing. I mean, you look at Mario Power Tennis, and that game is an incredible package with a ton of mini games, ton of multiplayer modes, just a lot of ways to play, and that's kind of what we're missing out on right now. So I'd like to see that happen. But the main game I wanted to talk about was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But before I started the over the weekend, I was like at the beginning of Chapter 3. Now I'm like a quarter of the way through Chapter 5. So, oops. And that was like, I got over 10 hours of gameplay in over the weekend, so I'm over 25 total right now. Man, I love this game. I am not like a big JRPG guy. It's just not my thing. Not into turn-based, not into like really complicated combat. But this game, man, I don't know what it did, but it figured me out. I dialed the difficulty down to easy so I could kind of play through a little more carelessly because it's a long game and I have to finish it.
Yeah.
And that really helped. Like, I got through 2 chapters in a row and I just kind of blew through it without too much difficulty, but that was fine with me because there is so much exposition. Every other minute there's a cutscene, fully voiced, the characters are talking to each other, cool stuff is happening. I love it. Joe's saying in the chat that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is made for you, Brandon, and he's right.
Yeah. I love exposition. That's actually part of the reason why I stopped playing it. Because like I tried to find a place to stop and I couldn't get away from cutscenes.
You have to like get to the end of a chapter.
There's like 1 or 2 different occasions where like I was trying to stop for a half hour and I couldn't because exposition just kept happening.
Between between chapters, you'll get like the epilogue cutscene for a chapter, and then it will go into the next chapter with cutscenes. I think between chapter 3 and 4, I didn't pick up my controller for like 45 minutes. It was a long time, but that's
like a Kojima game.
It was fantastic, though. I was like loving every minute of it. Like the cutscenes that you get at the ends of chapters are so really good. Like
okay, good.
It's like that so hype, like shonen anime. The hero figures out a way to beat the villain. Something fantastical happens.
Right.
This is my kind of thing. Like
right.
For me, it's the type of game that I need a block of time off where I can just dedicate to this and I don't have to worry about anything else.
You need a lot of time.
That's where my experience
Put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar.
So where I'm at in the game right now, some pretty big revelations have happened, like some pretty big things, and something pretty big happened to a particular character that I was not expecting. Yeah, it's big spoilery stuff. I can't give it away. There was a character that we lost. That I was so attached to this person, and the way this person goes out is so amazing. My heart hurt. Michaela got like so invested in just watching me play. She had like somewhere she had to go, but she wouldn't leave because she wanted to know what happened in like whatever cutscene was playing at the time. The nice thing is this game has a cutscene theater. So you can go back and
Oh,
watch.
so you can just rewatch them.
You can go back and watch any cutscene.
I love when games do that.
Especially when you accidentally skip it.
Should have that.
The cutscenes that are like in-engine cutscenes, which I think are actually all of them. The in-engine cutscenes where they like use like the phoned-in animations and whatnot. You can actually set what time of day and the weather that those take place in.
Oh, and you can rewatch them just with different.
Everything's gonna be rainy.
Day. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with Joe. All games need a cutscene viewer. I think the reason I got like reinvested in this game and the reason I wanted to pick it back up is because I'm still lobbying for Rex and Pyra to be playable in Smash Brothers because I think that'd be fantastic. And also that DLC package that they got coming out for Xenoblade looks really stellar. Like there's a meaty amount of content in there, and I've started seeing elements of the story that kind of play into this prequel DLC that we're getting, and I'm like, oh, well, now I need to know what happens.
Well, they're selling that DLC as like
a standalone,
a physical standalone, right?
Yeah, you can go to your local game store and you can buy a box that just has the DLC in it. That's how big it is.
That might be meaty.
It is a big content update. Like, this is worth the money from what it sounds like. They're asking $35. There's a challenge mode that you also get for buying the DLC, and I don't know if you guys saw this over the Treehouse Live gameplay, but
bits and pieces.
They Shulk and Fiora cross over into the timeline or the world during the challenge mode, and you can actually play with Shulk and Fiora as characters in the challenge mode.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Can't wait to keep playing this game. I absolutely have to know what happens next because the story is really good. That's what I played during the week, and I am dying of blood sugar right now, so I did this to myself. I'm sorry. Where are you at, Paul? What do you got?
So, Payday 2, we covered that. I played more of the Octo expansion, and guess what? I'm still not good at Splatoon.
Just unlock your Octoling, man.
I was working on that, and I'm trying to find the best way. I found 3 of the things.
Okay.
You're
most of the way there.
2 of them, so I'm halfway to my Octoling. I do eventually want to go through and do all of the different challenges, but I think I'm still a ways out.
I think it's worth it to do that, based on things that happen.
Fair enough.
They make it worth your while to play all of the missions.
I kind of figured they would. I just I get caught up on pop all the balloons, or I actually like the 8-ball challenges, but it was the ones where you have to do everything super precise in a certain amount of time that I'm not as big a fan of.
Those are the ones that require practice.
Which is why I don't like.
Joe also says he agrees with playing all of the missions. Well, the nice thing about the Octo expansion is they give you different weapon sets you can play those missions with, and the more expensive ones, if I recall, are the ones that are easier to complete the mission with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety, and they make it easy enough. What happened?
Logan sent some messages.
Oh, I can't read those.
He said, go on without me.
What? Oh. Did what happen? Am I assuming correctly then?
I'm hoping so. He talked about his most significant games already. Well, then I'll quickly, I'll run through my... I got the opportunity to play Fee. Fee?
I think it's Faye.
For the first time? Faye. I had a friend come from out of town. He had it down the Switch, and he really wanted me to try it because he really likes the world of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very beautiful game. It's got a really nice art style to it. In terms of the reviews and stuff, they mentioned that it's not a super meaty game. There's not a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I'm gonna say that's pretty well true. I'd gotten through, I think, not quite half of it, but I got through a significant portion of it. There's 5 or 6 different songs you can unlock to interact with the world, and I got 2 of them. 2 or 3 actually.
Okay.
So it's not a long game, but it is a $10 game too, so I'm a little bit more relaxed on it. It's not a terrible experience. For being like a Metroidvania, it has a very interesting way that you go about like exploring the world, in that you have to learn these songs to interact with like different environmental objects or animals. And the only like thing that I really give it kind of a negative on is story, because it's very interpretive. And granted, I didn't complete it. Talking to John, he told me that he's still not quite sure if he understands the end.
Oh, so, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are.
But I still ultimately think like seeing the map and all the different areas you can explore, like it's probably worth the $10. But that leads me to my last game. I played a couple more hours of Hollow Knight.
How are you liking that?
That's a good game.
I know, right? Holy cow.
I beat the first boss. And I think I discovered another area. I'm not sure. Actually, no, yeah, I did.
I think you're ahead of me.
There was another map.
Because I haven't gotten to the first boss yet.
Okay. I thought I found the first boss, and I think it would end up just being a mini boss. I found 2 of those, and I've learned to beat them. The cool thing about this game is that, like, when you die, I wasn't sure how they handled that. When I first died the first time, I noticed that all my money went away, and that upset me. But if you go back to where you died, like your spirit will be there, and it'll try and attack you. But you can very easily beat that, and then you get back everything you lost by dying.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little bit of a penalty, but it's not as big of a deal.
Kind of similar to what's the game I'm thinking of? Shovel Knight, because you can do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. I'm really glad that I picked it up. Hollow Knight.
Yeah,
I will say that, like... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm excited to play more, because I was really gripped by what I played so far.
Get the compass.
Oh, I did.
Good.
I needed it.
That was like the first thing that I did. That, and I think the quill or the pencil or whatever, if you get that, it will add any area you discovered here.
Okay, I think I got that too.
Then you're killing it.
Welcome back, Logan.
Nice.
It sounded like quite the experience.
I had something to attend to.
That's fine. Do you have anything to add to games before I die?
I just want to touch on a few things. So, when I said I play a lot of 2s, so Portal 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Payday 2. In addition to that, I have been playing through Half-Life 2 again. Oh man, Half-Life 2 is so good. That game holds up so well for being as old as it is. I want to say it's at least 14 years old, if not 15. Like released 2003 or something like that.
Maybe one day we'll get 3.
Yeah. And then on and off, me and my roommate Johnny, we have been playing NHL Hits on the GameCube. NHL Hits 2002.
Boom,
and,
2 2s.
It's a classic just video.
Is that part
game.
of the NFL Blitz series?
No, no, it is not. It is not.
So is that just a coincidence?
Your Madden 08?
Well, I guess I don't really know. I know
spelled
it's
the same way.
just NHL Hits. Maybe. I don't know. But I remember having this game back in the day when I had a GameCube when that came out. And it's so good. It's a very well made game, and it's a lot of fun.
Is it your version, your hockey version of Madden 08?
I guess so. Yeah.
Is that the game Scott's always bringing up?
Yeah.
Yeah, Madden 08 for some reason. Yeah, there's not a lot of not a lot of sports games I can appreciate, but two of them are NBA Jam and NHL Hits 2002. Just what beautiful memories. And I think that's about it for me.
Okay, cool. Because I'm starting to sweat.
Okay. Go cool off, you diabetic.
I need to eat. That's what needs to happen. I want to thank you guys all for watching the first standalone episode of the Breakdown podcast. So we were wondering how long this was going to go, and we actually went longer. Over 2 hours.
I joked about that.
You joked, and it happened.
We'll figure out how to bring it together next week.
We'll break down the breakdown next time. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you're looking for all of our Nintendo content, you can find that in the Nintendo Stuff podcast, which is live on Friday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time.
And what's happening this Friday on that show?
This Friday, we'll be having... Whoops, it's accidentally full length. Feature length with a picture of Donkey Kong. This week, we will be having C Average, who is a speedrunner for the game Master Spy, who is actually at SGDQ. He was sitting on the couch behind Obi-Dobi during that run. So we'll be talking to him about speedrunning, the wonderful world of speedrunning, what it was like being at SGDQ, talking about Master Spy, and just all that kind of cool stuff, getting into the world of speedrunning.
He met the developer for Celeste, so I got questions about that too.
Oh, yeah, that'll be awesome. So definitely look forward to that this Friday. This Friday? This Friday?
This Friday.
Okay, so this Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, C Average will be on the Nintendo Stuff podcast. So look forward to that. If you want to hit us up, talk to us anytime you want. We are on Twitter at Babababs or at LogieDubs or at Gunnysaurus or at Breakroom Arcade. You can find all the links to the important stuff in the description of the YouTube video. Join us in our Discord server. You can chat to us. We're in there pretty much all the time. Well, me and Paul are anyway.
What?
Savage.
Don't use this time to slander me, sir. Just give the good people what they need to know. Give them the information that's pertinent to the entertainment that we are providing.
That was pretty entertaining, so I think it added value to that.
Don't break your backs. Break in the games, but for now, break time's over.